How come you don't want to be seen?
Like it.
And we're back.
Is this part 2 now?
Yes, part 2. So I'm gonna add on to your dad, because what you just said is that's also something that is difficult for people, like I said before, for people to get, is that statement of like, I don't think I'll really be okay with my dad dying. But per your point of, you kind of focus on the good things.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of where my brain switched with everything. I was so, and again, you look back on the things that have happened in your life and you have a different perspective than you did then. Like me going down to Davenport and Grandpa dying and my relationship and all of that. I have a different perspective than I did in the moment. Especially I was thinking about this last month. I have podcasts, early podcasts, of where you can tell that I'm still very angry in my past relationship about things that have happened.
And you've grown?
Mainly because like I had spent so long not talking about them that I had really never processed them. And so when I first started talking to Cheryl about them, when we first started doing the podcast, it came from a place of anger, of a lot of anger, because I had not like processed through it. Whereas now I look back on those things and it's kind of like, yeah, they happened, and yeah, that sucked, but like there were good things.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same.
That which doesn't kill you only makes you stronger.
It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing. Going back to the Kelly thing too, the same thing. In the moment, I mean, I've talked to Mom about this and Tiffany. In the moment, I know it was scary for everybody. Everybody, for what it's worth, I'm fully aware of that. But like now, looking back on it, like I just said, there are a lot of positives from that I look back on and be like, I don't think I would have gotten to the revelations and things that I went through as fast if that didn't happen that way. If I wasn't able to work through it that way. And I'll add in the point that I was going to make about me going to Kelly, is that was a safe space. Is that it was a safe space to implode, to where I knew it wasn't going to permanently hinder me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't going to die. I wasn't going to, nothing actually bad was going to happen to me in that environment, but I was able to be destructive in a somewhat healthy way, or safe way, for what it's worth.
I have more stories.
Go ahead.
To go back to my mother-in-law. And again, I can't emphasize enough the people you meet, and Warren and Nancy were those people that, stupidly, I don't know if you've heard this, I've always been this techie guy that if something new tech comes out, I gotta have it. It's cool, and
whether you keep it, that's
nowadays,
but you gotta have it.
Nowadays, I talk through things, whereas before I didn't. There were impulse buys.
I used to say, sorry to interrupt, but I used to say that to people, is that, everybody talks about having the home computer. When they grew up in like the 90s and 2000s, like everybody had the home computer. And I tell people, I was like, we didn't just have the home computer. We had all the shit that went with it. It wasn't just like a normal computer that sat in the computer room in the house. Like we had like games, and we had the hookups and LimeWire.
Well, part of that story prior to what you're talking about, I had to have a Commodore 64, and your mom was bitching at me like, "What do we need that for?"
Because why not?
Need what? But I had to have one, and I went out and bought it. And that put us in a financial issue
Mhm.
where I couldn't pay rent.
No shit.
And I don't know directly if your mom told your grandma or not. But I wasn't using it as much as I probably should have. And your grandma offered to buy it from us.
That's cool.
That could make us rent.
I didn't know that.
And I thought, because she was interested in it, she sold me the bill that
She wheel and dealed you?
she sold me that, oh, that's really interesting. I think we need one of those and blah, blah, blah. And she made it so we could pay rent that month. Okay. Only to find out later on when we visited them, it sat in the bottom of a closet and she hadn't touched it. And it just goes to show you who she was. The better story for me, anyways, that's very hit home to me was before my dad died, and he fell and he was in the hospital. We ran down there, and I don't know how concerned I was, but I'd never seen him like that before. First of all, next to never seen him unshaven, which is weird. But his eye was all black, and your grandma called your mom, and I told that story at the funeral was, get him over here. And she did, and she made chili for us, and we watched the Hawkeye game. And I told that story, and you know, you said before, sharing things too much.
Mhm.
And this is one of the reasons that I share a lot of shit on Facebook is I'm hoping, a big hope of mine is that somebody will see it and go, oh, I get it. And I can do that too. And that's what happened with that story when I put that on Facebook. There was a ton of my friends reached out and said, that's an awesome story. If you ever need anything, come over and we'll make a sandwich or something like that. And it was funny how many people that hit.
Mhm.
And that was your grandma. She is just one of those people that made, I don't know how many people I could count on hands, but one of those people that made a tremendous impact to me.
You got toes too.
That's true. But one of those people that made a tremendous impact on life of who you should aspire to be like. And again, I'll go back to how we started this whole thing is you don't find those kind of people around anymore. They're all selfish bastards. And
So I had this conversation with Cheryl. Me and her were talking about it in a different sort of way, but I will echo your statement of, as far as grandma goes, no. I said that at the beginning. I said that at the beginning of this. You don't. It's I believe that energy gets transferred, so that makes me feel a little better about it. But it's weird when somebody that's that positive and happy and generates positivity into people, at whether she tries to or not, just being there is gone. It's a weird void to feel, because you don't, because like I said in the beginning of this, you don't really, I mean, you appreciate it, but you don't really understand it to the capacity you do when it's gone.
Mhm.
And as far as her and grandpa, that you don't find ever. And me and Cheryl were talking about this, about how it's funny how, because we were talking about how people have said that about me and Cheryl, and not in the same way, but in the same vein, of that they think our relationship is fake, that we don't have the communication we have, that it's all an outside thing. that everything we say is just for show. Like when we go home, we argue all the time, and people think it's unreal. And the same with Warren and Nancy. People look at that and go, "There's no way that that exists. Like that's just a fantasy. Like there's no way that that type of relationship exists. That type of devotion to people to each other exists." And that's a hard thing unless you've seen it or experienced it. That's a hard thing to explain to people because I can't. And I believe I said this to you when we were down there. I can't even imagine if Cheryl died. I can't. I can't even imagine like how I would take that, how that would feel, what I would do after that. I can't. And I know 100% our relationship is nowhere even near Grandma and Grandpa's. Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I can't. So that was, and I told Mom this, that was the hard part for me being down there, is seeing Grandpa go through that. Because like I've said, it's a lot easier, for what it's worth, if both people go. It's a lot easier for everybody. Not that it's easy, but it's a lot easier because you know what I mean? You're doing it all at once.
So what you're saying
The
is,
other person doesn't have to
if your
deal-
mom and I die, we need to do the Thelma and Louise thing and die together.
it
It would be helpful.
It would be easier. No, I'm saying for sure it'd be easier because all of your stuff happens at once. Like you don't like right now, like Grandpa's by himself. You know what I mean? Like that's a whole separate issue.
Yep.
Like he has to, and especially like everything with Grandma, like he has to learn things again
that he didn't have to do.
He has to, and like we said about the grieving thing, he also has to work through his own shit and all the, and you know, coming to terms with all of that and whatever. And so, yeah, so if both go, it is easier, especially, and not just for that, but like for the family too, because then you're doing it all at once. You're not doing it for one person, and then whenever that other person goes, you're coming back and having the same thing over. Yeah. So yes, it would be helpful.
Okay, Mark, remember that Thelma and Louise thing.
I do have I've told this story. I will tell this story because my sister thinks it's funny, and my sister likes to make fun of me for it. But
is it about death, or are we talking about something else?
No, it's about Grandma. It's about Grandma in general. It's not about death, but it's about Grandma in general. So when I was younger, we would go over to Grandma and Grandpa's house all the time. And one of the things that me and Grandma did, I don't know how far back that goes, as far back as my memory goes, we would watch movies. So like when we went over there, like me and Grandma would watch movies, and then Brandon and Grandpa would like do random other shit. But like that was me and Grandma's thing. Is that
what was the Rooster movie? The Elvis Rooster movie?
Rockadoodle.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, by the way, hold on. Side note to that, do you know the amount of people that don't know that movie exists? It's so weird to me. Anyway, but like we would watch movies all the time, and so she had this whole collection of Elvis movies, like every single Elvis movie that ever existed, and it wasn't the first time. That's why I don't understand like why this was like why whatever, doesn't matter. But like she had me like pick out one, and I picked out the boxing one, and I'm not an Elvis fan, so I still don't understand that part of this story. I remember it's an actual memory. It's not like people have told me this story and I just created it. It's an actual memory that I have. But I picked the boxing one, and there's a scene in that movie, because Elvis is a boxer. There's a scene in that movie where he's just getting like, just kind of like the scene in Rocky where he's just like hitting him in the face. And like he's like barely like defending himself and all bloody and whatever. And so I was hysterically crying because they were beating the shit out of Elvis. And it like bothered me that like they just kept hitting him.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like he's done. Leave him go. Let him go.
Yeah.
That is so funny because when we were talking about you having the Elvis collection movies, she told me that same exact story.
Yeah, and okay, so the last part of that is okay. So I'm hysterically crying, right? And it had to be like 5. It was it had to be like 5 or younger, and she couldn't like console me because I was so upset that like I had watched this, which is not even like that's literally the only bad part of the movie. And so she made these cookies. They're like the holiday cookies. They're like the little tube cookies, whatever. And she made those, and we sat, and I can't remember what other movie she put on, but it wasn't an Elvis movie. She put on a different movie, and we sat there, and she made hot chocolate, and we drank hot chocolate and ate the cookies until I like calmed down. So forward to me being an adult. So Grandma has the whole basement full of like all Elvis shit, right? And at that point, at the point of me watching that movie, she didn't. I think she had the rug, she had the plates already, and she had the movies, and then she had the teddy bears. I think that was all she had in her basement at that point. And then like as an adult, she had all the scarves and all the collectibles. So I remember thinking prior to your dad dying of it's so cool that I get to see this and that nobody else knows this exists.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's just I remember thinking like this is so cool that like I know that when I go to her house I get to see this whole basement.
Elvis shrine.
Yeah, it's like and nobody else knows this. Like if you were walking past Grandma's house, you would never know that.
Correct.
And so, anyway, so I thought about that before your dad died, and then after your dad died, I can't remember who I was talking. I think it was Tiffany actually, and I was talking to her, and I was like, I wonder if anything's ever going to happen to this. Because like Grandma never like it was her thing. Like you know what I mean? Like she didn't collect it with the idea of one day this is going to be worth a whole bunch of money. I'm going to sell it. It was just something that she was interested in.
Yep.
And so like I remember thinking that. I remember like I wonder what's going to happen with it. And it didn't really bother me at the time. But then I was when me and Cheryl got together, I was so excited for her to see it. Because I was like, this is fucking cool. Like, again, like I'm not the biggest Elvis fan, but like it's just it's fucking cool. Like I don't care if you're an Elvis fan or not. And I have the video somewhere. If you were to just see it, it's cool to see. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so when me and Cheryl first got together and we went down there, I was excited to show her. And so when we did that, before anybody got down there, I took a video of the whole entire thing. All the way through by myself without anybody down there. And then last year was when I talked to you about it, or was it the year before?
I think it was the year before.
But me and Mom were talking about something, and I was telling her, I was like, yeah, like it's always been really cool, and like it would be really cool. Originally, I was like, it would be really cool if something were to happen, if I could get the plates, because I always thought the plates were cool because the plates were always there.
Yeah.
Even from the beginning, the plates were there, and it was something just me and Mom talked about. And she's like, well, yeah, I don't know, blah, blah, whatever. And she had told Grandma, and even Grandma was like, I didn't even know that anybody, like, it wasn't just a me thing.
Yeah.
She didn't know that anybody even recognized that was a thing. Yeah. She was like, I didn't know anybody was ever interested in it. And I'm like, you have an entire fucking basement of shit. You think nobody noticed?
I got a side story to that. Is back with the Commodore computer. Fast forward, like you said, we have this computer system and blah blah. I used that to become the best son-in-law. She had, as you know, she has the whole every Elvis movie, and she couldn't find one.
Mhm.
And at that time, I got when eBay was just starting up. I got on eBay. I think that movie in itself, that VHS tape, cost me like $76, which was a lot of money at that time. But it was the only one she didn't have, and that became, in my mind, anyways. I don't know about her, but in my mind, it was the best son-in-law. She was just like, "Oh my god!" And yeah, it was cool. But yeah, like you said, it's funny. You walk by the house, you never know what's in that basement. And
But again, it's funny the things that like, and that's why I brought one because that's a cool thing for me, but it's one of those things that you don't really realize. I don't know how to word that. What people notice, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like even like her mom, like thinking had that basement for years. I don't know how many people have gone down there and seen that and just never even knew that that was like a
yep.
thing. Like never even knew that people liked it or thought it was cool or like anything.
Again, as I said, I document so much crap on Facebook that
Mhm.
people give me shit about. But when we were going through the pictures when she died, um, I think I said this to her brother, was you had to be there to understand what her going to Elvis impersonators, no, it was the pastor, I think, lit her up.
Mhm.
And we went to, the last one we went to was down in Dubuque, and I have pictures of her and her mom, and she just, as they say, lit up like a Christmas tree. This is the thing.
I have a side note. I tell this. I've said this to many people about relationship goals, and my grandparents. Is that again? This blows my mind. I told you this when we were down in Davenport. The fact that my grandpa fucking retired at 50 is fucking crazy to me. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But all grandma wanted to do was go to the casino and see Elvis impersonators. And grandpa could have just as easily been like, no. Or you can go see them. Or we'll do that for a couple years and then, we'll figure something. But he didn't because he knew that that was something she enjoyed. And I don't know how.
And so he
I don't
bought
know,
it.
I don't know 100% he enjoyed going to see Elvis impersonators all the time.
But he bought into it because
but that's what I'm saying.
that brought her joy.
But he spent.
He liked watching her be happy.
That's what I'm
Yep,
saying.
yep.
He spent their whole retirement just doing something that made her happy, and that was it. Like, and he didn't need anything else. You know what I mean? Like, he still got to like golf and do his thing, but like, it was their retirement was, in my opinion, their retirement was solely okay. Now we're gonna spend the rest of our lives making you happy, and you being happy, and us just enjoying being happy. And I've told people, I was like, you don't find a lot of that consistently.
Yeah.
Like I said, you find some that are like, okay, we'll do this for a couple of years. Oh, that was fun to go on these trips and do these things. And then kind of is like, okay, I just want to sit and not do anything and you can do your thing or whatever. But they spent so long together enjoying doing the things that made them happy together.
Yep.
So that's one thing that like I don't know, as a husband, it's one of the things that I look at as like that's something really cool that you don't find very often, is a husband that's willing to do that consistently and not as a chore, not as a,
Oh my God, we gotta go.
yeah, we got to go to the Elvis impersonator again because it makes my wife happy or whatever. Like, it was never, like I said, I don't know 100% he loved going to freaking Elvis, but he at least liked it enough where it wasn't a chore for him. It was fun. It was an experience. It was something that he enjoyed, driving to Peoria to go for a night or whatever. Like and the casino thing too. Like it was
people have said to us, family members have said to us, well, who are concerned about Warren and Nancy, all they do is go to the casinos. What's it your business? If that's what makes them happy, they have the money to do whatever they want to do. That's what they do. It's better than sitting at home doing this all day,
And it's those things. Yeah, I guess for me personally, it's those things that like I remember. You know what I mean? Like I remember their relationship. I remember my grandma not just being, well, whatever Warren says goes. Like she's stood up for herself. She talked shit to him. She, did all this stuff, but it was always in a loving way. It was never, they never screamed at each other. Rarely ever.
That you know of.
Well, that I know of. But like, it was just devotion's a good word. It was the devotion to each other of like, I'm just here to make you happy.
Yeah.
And I just want you to be happy.
Yeah.
And which carries over to grandma in general is that I feel like that was her whole thing with everybody. Whether she tried to or not. It was I just want you to smile. I just want you to have a good time. I just want you to be fed. I just want you to, you know what I mean? Like it was about everybody around her, not her.
Yeah.
And that is a rare thing to have with anybody now. And me and Cheryl were just talking about this. Most people in that generation and in our generation have a main character thought process of me, about me, of what can people do for me? What can I get for me? What memories are other people going to have about me? And I feel like I'll say from experience, also people in her generation have that mindset too of, well, we went through so much shit, so we deserve to.
Yeah.
And she always was the complete opposite. It was never about her. It was never.
It's funny because I feel the same way that what you just said. And she got mad at me the week before she died. We were down there. And I am just so appreciative of her and Grandpa, right? Of everything. And so when I go down there, let me take you to dinner. Flip side of that is, like you just said, she wants, you drove down here, I'm going to take care of you. And now there becomes this. So she bought us dinner one night. And so we did play that a lot of times, was who bought dinner last. And so she bought dinner the first night. And the second night we went out and I bought, and she got mad at me. And I'm like, this is the way things work here. She didn't want, she wanted to do everything for us because we came down to see them. She's, again, I'm trying to look at this positively and not be so upset about it, because you don't find that many people in life like that.
I agree.
And she was one of them.
So I'll ask you a question if you don't have one.
Go ahead.
It's my interview now.
Yeah, sorry.
So
do you want to feed me a question to give to you so you can talk?
If you would be able to ask me.
Yeah.
No. So what is your thoughts on grieving?
Well, I will tell you what I said before is I think everybody has their own process. The hardship is figuring out what that process is, because when somebody dies, if it's If it's somebody you don't know, that's one thing. But if it's somebody that was that close to you, I think you're hit. Your mom said this. I planned for my dad to die for so many years, and your mom, again, I'm repeating, you're going to be a puddle when it happens, and I was. You just get hit with a baseball bat. You don't know what to do, how to do anything like that. And I've said this to your mom before, and I hope she didn't take it wrong, is she was there for me like that when my parents died. But being that person that's in the forest and can't see through the trees, you want to tell people you don't get it. You don't understand because
Mhm.
it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to say this. I hope she kind of understands now because I can understand it for her now. Whereas I don't think she could fully fathom it
Then?
until you go through it. You can't fully fathom what it's like. And you think you can. It's like she said, I'll repeat again. You think you can, but you can't.
Mm.
And you don't think the people around you understand like you do.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
That it wasn't as impactful to you as it was to me.
For sure.
But you also have to understand that your level is still a level.
Mm.
Like it could be 100% for your mom right now, and it could be 90% for me, and it could be 70. But it's still a percentage there that how impactful she was.
I've said this about death in general, but I've said this to many people, is that what you're feeling, it doesn't matter the level. You're still feeling that. That's still your feeling.
Yeah.
So I can say, which I won't. For sure, I won't to any of my siblings, but I can say I had a better connection with Grandma Nancy than you did. So this death affects me a lot more than it affects you.
Mhm.
I can say that. I won't because I feel like that's unfair. And that could be totally true. But that doesn't mean that whatever relationship you had with her, that doesn't hurt. That you're not still going through stuff. And it's hard in the moment to make that distinction. Kind of what you were saying is that when your parents died, it's hard for you to see, even I would assume, and we've never talked about this, but I would assume even with your siblings, it's hard for you to say, well, you didn't know them like I did.
Actually, that's a bad correlation because my sisters will all tell you, well, you were the favorite.
Well,
you were a lot closer to Dad than we were.
But I'm saying,
true, but
I'm saying, like in those moments, it's hard for you as the person that's being affected by it, for you to look past that, because it is a main character event. It is something that affects you.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean it only affects you. That just means that you are being impacted in the moment, so you feel like nobody else feels what you feel.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Me and Dad talked about that actually. Was it maybe a week ago? We were talking about it, and we were talking about the different perspectives of who you lost and the different perspectives of
For
how
sure.
it is. Because he lost a wife, and that is a terrible thing, and it's I cannot imagine how that would feel. But I lost a mom,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not any less grieving than his grieving, and his, and
It's just
mine isn't
different.
any more grieving than his grieving. It's just a different kind of grieving that we're both doing, and it's hard on both of us.
It's the same thing I said to Tiffany about Josh. Is that it's different relationships, but it's not less valid.
Right.
Like the relationship that especially the relationship that you two had with Josh is completely different from the relationship I did, completely different from the one Tiffany did. But that doesn't mean that it didn't hurt. That doesn't mean that it's not
Right.
like
It still affected you and you're still
Yeah.
grieving.
Mhm.
You can have just as much.
it's just a different type of relationship you're
Yeah.
grieving.
Right.
I'll throw in side no death story about Josh though, that not only the when he died, tell that real quick, that I drove to Minneapolis and when I walked in the room and he said, it must be pretty bad if they're sending the big man in.
Mm-hmm.
But to tell you the relationship, God, I love that kid. His grandpa, Mr. Dwight, had 60th birthday or 70th birthday, whatever, out at their church in Bluegrass. And we went out there for that. And he spent the whole time with me. You got your mom and dad, your aunts and uncles, and he's with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just took that. First of all, because I'm immature, I think.
You're closest
on his level, you know. Everybody's always like, "Oh, I got to act like an
For
adult,"
sure.
you know. And I think that was a lot
For
of
sure.
it too. But he was just a great. Again, it's hard, very hard, but you have to put it into a perspective, like Nancy and my dad and Josh, and
Mhm.
just be thankful for the time that you had to be around them because they were lights.
For sure. I said I had I can't remember who I said this to. Two things. I am gonna tell the story about Emma, but two things. One, who said it? Somebody said it to me before we went to the funeral, but I said something about my tattoos or whatever, and I was like, what I was gonna wear. And I was like, doesn't matter. He's like, well, it's a funeral or whatever. I was like, my grandma didn't give a shit about my tattoos. I was like,
I gotta stop you for a second.
yeah,
I gotta stop you for a second because I thought the same thing about mine.
Mhm.
But the weekend before when we were down there, she was asking about all of my tattoos and what they meant. She's never asked that before. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
thought they were.
but yeah. Anyway, like years. Obviously, I've had tattoos, and grandma never once said any. And that was one thing. I said this to Cheryl when we were in the hotel room. That's one thing I wish they would have articulated better in her memorial at the funeral. Is that part?
What?
Is her not caring?
Didn't judge.
Yeah, is that she didn't like she would talk shit, but like she didn't like, but she didn't like judge anybody, and and never, as far as like, unless you did something to make her feel a certain way, didn't matter who you brought over to the house, didn't matter who anybody dated, didn't matter what you like, you know what I mean? Like, unless you gave her a reason, she would never judge anybody that stepped foot in her house or near her. And I said that I was having that conversation with Cheryl. I was like, it's funny to me the thought process that people have, because grandma never obviously I keep getting tattoos and I have over forever, and not once I've never hidden them ever, and not once was grandma like, oh, you got another one, or like, you know what I mean? Like, not ever. And so like, I don't know. So that was just funny because like, just in that moment, I was like, why is she gonna care now?
Yeah.
Like no, I'm gonna show up to her funeral exactly how I would if I were to show up at her house, and that's the way it's gonna be. I'm not gonna go to her funeral any other way. I'm not gonna act like, and I know that that's a part of my personality anyway, but I don't know. I just thought about that before going to her funeral. I was like, I'm not going to act like I'm any different than I was. I'm not going to have the 3-piece suit with the nice shiny shoes with, to look like, oh, this is what people at a funeral look like. No, like this is who I am. This is how I've always been. This is who she loved me to be.
Mm?
And I'm here for her, not for you.
Mm?
But to tag on to that though, so I was very proud of my daughter at the funeral because
We were
talked.
too.
She talked because they asked everybody, they're like, if you have stories, tell whatever. And again, I had told Mom and Cheryl this prior that I had already made the decision I wasn't going to because I wanted to keep that for me. And she stood up and said and talked, and she said that she was really glad because Grandma never treated her any different than anybody else.
Mm.
And treated her like she was meant to be there.
Hmm.
Which is really, I'm not saying this to discredit what she said, which is a really nice thing to say in the moment. But then after everything, when we got home, she was really emotional. She was going through it. And she said that. She's like, no, I meant that. Like, she's like, I wasn't just saying that. Like, I meant that. It's really, she's like, I'm grateful, and it's very hard for me because there are parts of my own family that don't do that don't accept me for who I am and don't treat me like I'm a part of the family and whatever. And she's like, it's hard for me to be around your family and your grandparents and them not ask any questions. And they accept me for who I am, and they talk to me and they treat me like I'm always welcome and I'm always there. And she's like, and then I have to talk to parts of my family that don't do that. And she's like, and it's just hard because now that's gone. Going back to your point about perspective, is that that's a different kind of relationship that you're losing. Like, it's not just,
Yeah.
I have the relationship I have with my grandma, but I guess until that point, I didn't really, kind of the same thing as the Elvis thing. To that point, I didn't know that until then. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how impactful that was until that moment. You know what I mean?
The
So-
funny side story to that, it comes back to me, of course, is when we're sitting there and the pastor says, does anybody want to say anything? And nobody did. And Jody's sitting next to me going, oh, me? And he goes,
Oh, I'm gonna circle.
so I had to tell the chili story because he's tapping me on the legs.
I'm gonna circle back to something that we talked about before. So the whole thing about people grieve differently. So obviously we went through my grieving for Grandpa, which is probably not the healthiest thing on the planet. But one of the things that
It's not for everybody.
but it's not, and again, it was good for me, but would not recommend for everybody. It's not a constructive way to deal with your problems. Anyway, but
as your shirt says,
whiskey does help. But so 2 stories. I'll tag on to that, as that was also one of the things that sticks out in my head a lot, is that when your dad died and everybody went to Rusty Nail, that was one of those things that sticks out in my head, because I'm like, how cool, I mean, obviously bad circumstances, but like, how cool is it that in that moment you can be like, hey, come be here with me. And it wasn't, I don't know how to word that. It wasn't a cry fest. It wasn't like a, you know what I mean?
just come and have a beer with me.
Yeah, it was just like, come hang out, come drink with me, come do whatever. And it wasn't judged because it was a way of like, this is what I do. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, well, my dad, which different, but it wasn't.
Are you sure?
It wasn't like would my dad approve of us doing that, or I don't think my dad would really want us to do that. It was this is what I do, and I just want to be around people, and this is what would make me feel better right now. I'm sure your dad. I'm sure your dad.
You just threw me on
anyway
on the Autobahn. You just threw me on the Autobahn because there was an issue when Josh died, but then his dad died. My best friend died. David. And
which fuck
the families kind of split apart at that time because the people, his ex-wife and daughter and lived in Minnesota, and they were going to have this thing at, like you said, and it wasn't a bar. It was a bar up here, but then a banquet room, and so they're having it in the banquet room, and the family down in Davenport got really pissed off. You don't do this. You don't do this.
Because he died of alcohol.
And befriended me and unfriended me because of it. And I got so pissed off because I was kind of like, this is what we did. You know, we had fun at it. We had a lot of fun at it. Your mom and I and him and his wife, we would go out drinking and stupid dancing, country bars. That's what we did. And if you're trying to say, oh my God, we're the Christian family who did it, you're lying to yourself. Or you didn't know who he was, but we did. And I preach that it's all about the fun. It was a lot of fun, and that's what we did. And so even if they had it at a bar, who are you to say, oh, no, that's wrong? You're celebrating somebody's life however you do. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now.
So that brings me to... So that, anyway, that sticks out in my head because again, going through my own shit during that time too. But I always thought that was cool of like and obviously we've talked about this over the years, that's how we do things. Is because that's the type of people that we are. Like it's
or Waffle House.
Like that. No, but like that's the same way as this, the same way I felt about podcasting in general, the same way I feel about, going out for my birthdays and whatever. It's nice to sit around, drink with people, talk, and whatever. I feel like that's a loss. I personally, probably coming from the two of you, I feel like that's a lost thing that people don't think about anymore.
I throw this in a lot too. Before the casino started coming to town, that's what we did at your great grandparents' house. Go down in the basement, have some drinks, play cards all night long, and it was a blast. So I mean,
but the everybody grieves differently thing. So that I always thought was cool because and seeing that in person too, not as like a story that you guys have told or whatever. Like seeing all of your friends and your family, which that was part of it. That
was a weird thing to me.
That was part of it that blew my mind. Was your sisters in coming and drinking, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yep.
But anyway, so getting to see that in person was kind of cool. But the other thing that triggered that when Grandma died was when we got down there, when we got to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and all of us sitting outside talking, and Jody, and like it was a moment that I was like
sitting outside at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah, it was a moment that like all of us were like, okay, we're doing this together. Like in a way, like we're all doing this in our own separate way, but we're doing this together in this moment right now. And I just thought that, I don't know. I just thought that was cool, and just that we as a, I don't know if everybody in our family has that, but
I had a quick moment.
Just that as a like us being able to do that as a grieving process is nice. Is like sitting around drinking and talking and like just that our family has that as a thing.
I had a quick moment that time was like, so are we going to sit out here until the sun comes up? And the quick moment was, and do I care?
Yeah.
You're just sitting there and
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I feel for anybody who goes through a death that's close to them, because I've been there. I'll admit that I can't feel what you're feeling because you have your own shit to deal with. But again, I'll empathize because it sucks. It really does. And how you try to process it in your own way. I hope that you process it positively on a positive road. And if you can't, get help.
I have an add-on that I'm sure you'll share, and I hope that people that go through this can find that person, whether it's their person or whether it's just a person in their life. But I am very lucky, I think, that I have Cheryl because she understands that part of it. And I think that that's a hard thing to find. And me and you have talked about this too, is that it's hard to find somebody that understands I don't need you right now, but I need you to just be here.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people don't get that concept. They get they need me to fix them. They
Yeah.
need me to make it better. They need me to do this thing.
I need to be in your face and say, "What do you need me to do for you? What
Why, are you upset? Are you upset?
No.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Are you upset?
Yeah.
What do we need to do? Do we need to do this? Do we need to go to this? Do we need to do this? Yeah, because
You
it's
need to
human,
shut the hell up.
because it's human nature, especially
It is.
when you're with somebody that's your focus, and it's. I am lucky to the point that Cheryl understands that of like, I'm here if you need it,
Mhm.
and in the same way as had recently, me and her just had this conversation because of grandma, but because, like I said before, that when something overwhelming happens, my instinct reaction is self-destruction, is that she understands that too. So when stuff like that happens, and when those triggers happen, she's like, "Hey, are we okay?
Hmm?
Do we need are we?
You need some pie.
No, do we need to adjust? Do we need to figure something out? Like, are you gonna be
Yeah.
okay? Like, sort of thing." It's not in a great, I'm gonna have to deal with this sort of thing. It's a, okay, I can see you're going through this, so are we gonna have to adjust for this, or do you got it? And finding somebody like that in those times, or how you're grieving, that's just how I grieve. But just in those moments is hard to find. So,
Are we close to an end?
yeah, sure. Why do you want to end?
There's a way that I want to end this. Maybe.
But can I ask a question?
Sure. Nobody's asked me a question this whole fucking podcast. I've been
Wow.
talking for 4 hours. Nobody asked me shit.
Okay, so you've talked about everybody.
Yeah.
So as far as Jackson goes,
Yeah.
your nephew.
Yeah.
How did you grieve for Jackson? We didn't really know him
Well, that was
a lot.
yeah. Me and Cheryl talked about that, and I'll say, and I'll preface this by, if this comes out insensitive or mean, I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying, personally for me, you're not wrong. I never got to meet him at all, and like not even once.
I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that.
And so, not that it wasn't, it was more difficult from a parent outsider point of view than it was for the loss, for me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
The loss of the person really didn't affect me because it wasn't, like I said, like I didn't really meet him, so it wasn't like a loss of some, I don't know how to word that. It wasn't like a loss of,
like the loss of one of your other nieces.
yeah, because it's kind of, I'm going to say this as an example, knowing that it's insensitive and not the same thing. But it's like walking past a store and seeing a stuffed animal and then going home and liking that stuffed animal.
Right.
It's there. You saw it. You know it exists, but you didn't get to take it home or anything, so you don't really have the same attachment to it. It
Yeah.
was the perspective of a parent seeing from a parent perspective and thinking what would happen if that happened with me, that's what affected me. Because knowing that, like, knowing not only that my sister and brother-in-law like lost their kid, but like thinking about that from the perspective of if that would have happened to me,
Yep.
like that's what affected me about it, not so much the loss itself, if that makes sense.
Because I know I find myself, because I feel the same way. We didn't have a chance to really bond with him
Mhm.
and stuff, so it wasn't more of a, gosh, I'm gonna miss him.
Mhm.
It's I grieve for the lost opportunities
Yeah,
with him.
for
The
sure.
lost memories that I'll never have with
Mhm.
him. And not ever getting to see him walk. Or, the things that Jasmine's doing, I'll never see Jackson do
Mhm.
that. I tend to am grieving
Mhm.
that more than I am him. And I grieve for my daughter and
But
son-in-law,
but even I said this. I know I said this, Cheryl, but I can't. I said this to somebody else too, probably Tiffany. But I felt like we said nobody can really understand to the same capacity. But I feel like with that, people weren't being as sensitive as they should or could have been. And that bothered me specifically. And I'm going to tell a story because it just bothers me. So when we went to the funeral for Jackson, and perspective wise,
Jackson.
their parents had just lost their kid,
Mhm.
and their kid is right there that they
Mhm.
can see
Mhm.
physically there. And they have to go through a whole funeral with all these people there and whatever. And Chris gets up and does his thing
Mhm.
and does his speech, and he's visibly shaking and voice cracking and hardly being able to make it and keep his shit together. And he gets done, and a room full of people, nobody gets up. That bothered the shit out of me.
I agree.
That's
Nobody
why-
went over to console him.
and that's
his
why-
family was right
that's why-
there.
Which is why I did,
Right.
is because I understand, and it's kind of a catch-22 thing. I understand everybody's grieving. I understand everybody doesn't know what to do in those moments. I understand that. But basic human things.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Or should.
Like, if you can, it would have been totally different if he would have got up there, no voice crack, no shakiness, no nothing, did his thing, walked down, and started crying sitting there. Totally different concept. I understand people not getting up. I understand people not consoling him. He looked like he had his shit together up there. I get that. That's not what happened. And the fact that nobody like even thought to be like, maybe he needs a hug or something,
Yeah.
that bothered me. So sorry, that's just like my
No,
side.
I agree with you.
It
I mean,
bothered
I was so
it
proud
bothered
of
the
you
shit
that
out of
you
me.
did that. I personally was so proud of you that you did that, because that shows how much we actually love him. And I do think being an in-law, you don't get that. Stop.
I know. I saw it already.
You don't always have that feeling.
Yeah.
And your in-laws,
Well, also you can stop after this, but I'll say a side thing of putting yourself as your other people in front of yourself, and I'm not. This is not a pity story, but it's just something that I've talked to a couple people about. So I don't like funerals. I don't like funeral homes because I feel a lot of things in funeral homes and a lot of death, and it's very overwhelming for my soul and spirit to be there.
My grandson.
Yeah, which that also sucked because I even told mom that. I was like, I should have known that beforehand. I should have figured that out faster. But anyway, so I avoid funeral homes and things like that for the most part, and so does my brother. And But for those moments, it's not about
Me.
me. Kind of the same thing I said about grandma. But I'll use Jackson's funeral as my example, is that person that doesn't do funerals, even more so than I don't, was there
Mm-hmm.
because he was asked.
Mhm.
Same with grandma. He drove 5 hours to go to a funeral, and he does not go to funerals
Or hospitals.
or hospitals.
This is where I wanted to end this.
Hold on.
Okay.
So, but anyway, but in those moments, I have pushed my shit aside, and it is very overwhelming for me as far as like the things that I feel in funeral homes. Very, like to the point that I can't breathe. But I didn't realize that was a thing. I never realized that. I just thought that was a me thing, always,
Mm-hmm.
until my son did it. We brought him in. He was fine, and then we brought him into the actual like funeral thing. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
And he was like hysterically crying, and then we took him out, and he like calmed down. And every time we took him in there, like it's like instant. And I was feeling all of that because I was in there, but like I said, I just thought it was like a me thing. And then it wasn't until after that I was sitting in the truck with him, and I was just like, "What's your deal? Like, what's your deal, bud? Like, why?" Because it was like instant. It was like the moment that we would get out of the room, he would be like,
Yeah.
like I was like, "What is your deal?" And he's like, I don't like that place. It makes me feel bad. And I was
Bad
like,
feelings.
Sad.
or bad feelings.
Bad feelings.
Bad feelings. And I was like, shit. Like it was in that moment that I was like, fuck, I should have known that. But I was talking to Cheryl about that, and I was like, but even that, like putting, and again, this isn't meant as like a pity thing, but like even putting myself through that, knowing that I don't like that, knowing that that feeling is very overwhelming for me, but doing it anyway because that's where I'm needed. Like I'm not gonna be selfish in that moment and be like, I can't. The same with Brandon. He's not gonna, and he hasn't. He has made the decision sometimes to not go to hospitals because he doesn't do hospitals.
Mhm.
But when it's come to moments like that, he's not been selfish in those moments. He's not been like this is a me thing, so I'm not gonna do it. He's always been there whether he's comfortable with it or not.
So that's where I'll end this. Is so when I think right before I picked you up, I said, "Here's the gig. I hope you can make it." And the only thing, his only response text message was, "Anything for Grandma."
For sure.
And in knowing what you just said is, I don't do hospitals, I don't do funerals, but so
I'll add on to that. Same basic premise, so we can still end on your.
no, if you gotta have the last word,
No.
you go right ahead.
But he did the same thing with Kimberly,
Mhm.
which you didn't know,
I didn't.
but he did the same thing with Kimberly when the day she found out about Jackson, had her come over to the house, and everybody was coming over to the house, and you were like, "Did you tell Brandon yet?" And I was like, "No," and I went and took Wyatt down for a nap, and I messaged him, and I was like, "You need to get here now." And he messaged me. He's like, "On my way,"
I did tell him.
and he showed up.
I did
No
tell him.
questions.
I did tell him that. And then I'm sitting in your chair like this, and I think there was a knock on the door, and somebody said, "Who's this?" And I go, "It's my other son."
Mhm.
And there he was.
And like I said, it wasn't like, "Hey, this happened to your sister. It'd be really nice if you came over," or whatever. That's all I messaged him was, "You need to get here now," and done.
Mm.
He was done. Anyway,
Anywho,
So do you want to do a closer? Was that your
I
closer?
will do a closer. This is kind of a guilt trip. Not on you really per se, but it's kind of a guilt trip. So we talked about your grandma's generosity, if you will.
Mhm.
As
Did we talk about her servantness to God?
well, yeah. Don't get me on that. Her generosity to and like Warren and Nancy, giving the shirt off their back for if you needed it,
Mhm.
or sometimes if you didn't need it, you know. And we also said you just don't see people like that anymore.
Mhm.
I'll close with this. My daughter took some people to Florida.
Mhm.
No questions asked. And that tells you it's still alive somewhere.
Mhm.
She could have went to Florida by herself with her kids, and she chose to invite other people at her expense. So it's still alive there a little bit.
A little
So,
bit. A little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah. As long as there's a glimmer of hope, I'm good.
Mm.
So there's my 2 cents to end it.
So for all of you that asked during this grieving process, which is a little insensitive, where the next podcast was, there it is.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll make sure just for you, we'll make sure there's more in the future.